I was a liberal up until the election. Kind of what you're talking about, like they lied to me, and so I kind of deconstructed my liberalism into, and that was misinterpreted as being a conservative. Now, also as an artist, I kind of like to play between those lines. Like I really like Andy Kaufman, and like, is he serious? But there was a period where I just observed a lot of conservative media to understand what is happening, because it just kind of hit like a storm. Like everything just, the culture changed, and that was like about a year of like wearing that hat, not appreciating it, but just trying to understand. And now I'm just at the stage where like I step back from that, and then I see, oh, well, both sides are manipulated here. I'm just going to be on my own path.
Wow.
For truth.
Hey, what's up? You're listening to the Digital Liberation Live podcast with me, your host, Mark Digital. We have a really, really interesting, crazy character on this show today, Michael Green, who is a digital artist and, I'll just go ahead and say it, thinker, who I am really, really hyped to talk to today, and I hope that you really enjoy this episode. I also just want to say, if you do enjoy the show, please do subscribe wherever you're listening, and also feel free to give us a good rating, give us a thumbs up, whatever. It goes a long way to making sure that people hear the type of shit that we're talking about, because as you know, this is not the most mainstream sort of opinions out there. So we appreciate it a lot, and we're in this together. So shouts out to all the artists and creatives out there. Shouts out to everyone who's a big supporter of Feltzine. We really appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you soon, wherever you are, whatever city you're in. Please keep hitting us up on Instagram and telling us that you want to see us. It goes a long way into making sure that we can actually come through to your city. So, all right, thank you. Enjoy the episode, and like we always say, follow us everywhere. You can find me, Mark Digital, at MarkDigitalHD as a high definition, and you can find us everywhere at FELTZINE. Peace.
So how are you right now? I kind of just I'm always excited. Any time we can chat and just kind of like have a moment to connect. How do you feel as we're ending this decade?
I'm excited about 2020, but I'm also I'm always nervous about the future, particularly just where we're headed with AI. I don't mean to get really dystopic right off, the bat here, but I'm more worried about 2040, because I'll be around 60 around that time. And maybe towards like the end of my life, things are gonna get weird. Like, as you know, the singularity is projected around 2045. I don't know. We better hope it takes its time. All I'm just saying is like, yeah, I'm cautiously excited, but there's a lot to consider this upcoming decade. I can go on and on. Like, I'm also worried about 5G. I saw in the news today, or there's like an advertisement. Is 5G already on?
The weird thing is 5G. Okay, so here's what I understand about 5G. Is I think that 5G exists, but it's like it first of all, it only works in like super short distances, so like very few people can even like if you have a 5G tower, you can't like use that shit like a mile away or something. So people are like, it's going to be great for like football stadiums. I guess that makes Americans excited. And then like it's and I don't, it's just not like it exists, but it's sort of like not really working yet. So it's sort of one of those things too. But what scares you about 5G? That's what I'm interested to hear.
Well, I'm worried about the being absorbed by the radiation. That's a big concern because there's been issues or concerns about like these towers are, they'll be by like school yards. I think I don't know if it was 4G or 5G, but I don't know. Forgive me, I don't have the info with me, but from what I understand, people are getting cancer near these areas, like near cell phone tower areas. And I'm not exactly sure if that's true or a concern, but I'm also, I don't want to get into conspiracy theories right off the bat. And also I have to be careful, because we are online too, and I want this podcast to stay online. So I'm very aware of that. But there's things you can do with 5G that involve mind control. Now, I'm not saying that will happen, but this is what I was talking about being worried about the future. I mean, these are going to be bigger, like with technologies that can get into your mind. So, I mean, am I worried they're going to like invade, my mind when they turn on the machines? No, but that technology in general is scary.
Well, it's interesting though, because like I think a lot of people kind of, people like hear like mind control, right? They get like a little bit like, oh, whatever, like you said, like, oh, this is getting into conspiracy theories. But I mean, the truth is like the government has done research into mind control, and like they have figured out that like you can mind control people, right? And I think that the idea that, something like 5G could be used to do that, like, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't actually think it's that, I honestly, I really don't think it's that ridiculous at all that this could happen. And I mean, like, until everything happened with like Snowden and like the NSA, like people thought it was ridiculous for people to think that the government was listening and like tapping into like every one of their calls, right? But like it actually turned out that like this is happening, or like whatever, like even if we go there, like Pizzagate, right? People are like, oh no, there's no pedophile rings that politicians are happening. And then you're like, oh, okay, wait, what is this island Jeffrey Epstein has? Oh, okay, wait, like I just think it's interesting that it's these things, if you actually, I think, look at the history of what especially the American government like is willing to do, I don't think it's ridiculous to think about the idea that, they'll use a new technology to do this sort of thing in any sense at all.
This show's getting taken off the internet.
Well, you know what? But we might as well go for it. I mean, the thing for me, and I'll just tell you too, like part of the reason why I wanted to have you on and what I do with this show is like, I think, I don't know, for me personally, I think it's important to kind of go there. That's also why I like recording on these private, like kind of like almost like invite only Discord channels, because I think that, these conversations do need to happen, and like whatever, they take it down, we'll put it back up. I'll just put it on a private site. We have followers on Felt. People can get to it.
Oh yeah, I've actually thought about this a lot. About and a few years ago, or actually even a year ago, I was more vocal about these types of issues online, and now I'm just personally developing a different strategy. I want to be here long term, and I started a YouTube channel that explored some of these issues in detail, and I experienced censorship firsthand, and I saw what happened to other people in that community, and so you got to be. I'm more aware of like what I want to communicate online. I'm not saying like we'll have like a conversation about 5G and then I'll be banned forever, but what I see the China social credit system and that's already there. And who knows if what the hell they're doing with the computers and analysis. And I'm sure I've been judged by those computers already. But I'm not saying I'm paranoid, but I'm like, okay, my strategy now is I'm just going to post memes on Facebook and keep my mouth shut. But also, like, I thought that if there are important issues like this, I really like Stanley Kubrick, and I like the idea of coding it, and he gave hints to an Eyes Wide Shut, but he didn't have to like splurt out all the information. It was more coded, and I think that's the way I want. If I do want to address these issues in the future, to instead of like giving all the information, give less.
I don't know. I think it's so weird. I think we just have this. I think people in a lot of ways now are like afraid of like free speech in a sense. And when you talk about kind of like being censored, and you don't have to go into the details or anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, but what I'm more interested in is actually like what impact that had on you, like kind of like how did that make you feel? Like, you talk about kind of like changing the way that you're going to approach stuff, but a lot of times I think people don't actually have the chance to kind of get the perspective of like, what was that like for you? And like I said, you don't have to go into anything like too detailed. You don't have to, talk about like what it was that you said or anything like that. But like kind of just like psychologically and artistically, because, you are an artist. I don't know. How did that kind of impact you?
Well, I've had 2 works banned. I had a like a mockumentary conspiracy documentary removed from banned on YouTube. And but it's just an example of what I'm disturbed about is how censorship that's to me is the big issue. And when I started speaking out on things, like was around the time of the 2016 election, and I remember the Twitter environment was different. There was just a lot more openness of even talking about pizza. I don't want to use that word
No
over
problem.
again, but
No problem.
and and that was, and then there was a huge purge, and so this is just a personal journey for me. I was questioning, like, am I the person to speak out on these issues? And I've determined that as of now, it's really not for me. Maybe it will be again. I mean, because I've seen people who really dedicate their lives to political issues or activism, and they, that censorship's just part of the game. But it got to the point with my YouTube podcast that it could have been a lot better, but I didn't even put in 100% energy into those productions because I felt like it was almost a waste of time. It was the timing of this. If this was 5 years ago, it probably would. Censorship's always existed, but it's really at the point where this is an opportunity we have an audience here and we can post it and, to have this type of discussion. But I mean, it's to me, there's well, this is the way I see it. I see like a mass awakening.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a result of many things, but the election of 2016 affected every human on Earth in some way or another, and people were kind of like awakened anyway. So, in correlation with this awakening, the censorship is rising, and so it's just kind of an information battle. But I'm just concerned more long term. Not even even in other areas, like with spirituality, that stuff gets censored, and holistic medicine, anything against like the mainstream narrative of how they want you to think is disappearing. So it's still there's still the information's still there now if you want to look for it. Sorry, I ramble, but maybe this is a good time to ramble.
It's a great time. No, this is the best time ever to ramble. No, it's so interesting you say that because I think like I think about this a lot too. Like I think about the 2016 election, the way that it impacted me. So one of the things for me is like I grew up in like a very, very like left liberal democratic household. I wouldn't even say very, but I guess like now that I see it, they're probably, my parents are probably like center left, right? Like they're not like, they weren't even, they're not like super into art or they're not hippies by anybody's measure, but they're definitely like center left, which is, I would say in their generation, especially probably like most Black people their age are that. But the thing about it is, I grew up just seeing like CNN, and then it was so interesting to me because then like as I got older, I would watch CNN or I would watch like MSNBC or something. And just because like that's what I knew. And it was so ridiculous to think about the 2016 election now, because I remember people saying like mathematically, there's no way that Trump could win. Like Trump couldn't win. And then he wins. And to me, that was my kind of like eye-opening moment. Like, I think I've always been independent in the way that like I'm always thinking for myself. But when I just saw like, and that's when I started to get into like independent media more and all these other things. Cause like, I just couldn't believe that like in a way, all these people like lied to me. Like I had felt personally lied to because it just felt like, whoa, like you told me this had to be the reality, right? That like Hillary Clinton was going to become president. And then this is not how it worked out. How could you do that to people? Like I felt like personally attacked. So I think you're right when you say that like that election had pretty deep impacts for everyone, everyone in different ways, but it definitely impacted everybody.
Almost like a 9/11,
Yeah.
which is the kind of last thing I remember. And it was surreal about that too. We're connected to all this because I put out the a felt zine issue that day.
Yep.
For the election.
Yeah.
And I remember, looking back at the material, it's not even scary, but I remember like when he won, I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, cause I just saw I saw everybody's reaction online and never seen anything. Like it was just insanity. And I'm like, like suddenly the context of the art changed. And I even had like one image of there's it was hard for me to do this. It was like a Hitler Nazi salute with a not Pepe, what's that other one? Big Boy, or what is his name? Big Boy or Dat Boy?
Yes.
Yeah. But that was actually more to say like, oh, like look, Dat Boy's getting hijacked, by the alt-right. But like that's just a sensitive image. And then I don't know, like my whole life as an artist changed too from that moment. It's just suddenly it got very serious, and I don't know. I was we'll just talk about it. I don't care because I'm at peace with it. I was a liberal up until the election, kind of what you're talking about, like they lied to me. And so I kind of deconstructed my liberalism and that was misinterpreted as being a conservative. Now, also as an artist, I kind of like to play between those lines. Like I really like Andy Kaufman, and like, is he serious? But there was a period where I just observed a lot of conservative media to understand what is happening, because it just kind of hit like a storm, like everything just, the culture changed. And that was like about a year of like wearing that hat, not appreciating it, but just trying to understand. And now I'm just at the stage where, like, I step back from that, and then I see, oh well, both sides are manipulated here. I'm just going to be on my own path for truth.
Yeah. It's so interesting you say that, because I would say, like, in a lot of ways, like, I personally went through like the almost like the exact same thing. It's so interesting you say that. But one thing I want to ask you too, which is related to this, but also more directly related to your art, and it's that, do you see yourself as like a political artist?
Not really. I would say it just, there are political works. Kind of goes back to what we're saying was, I only became involved because the online and the exterior environment changed after the election, and I don't know. It was just really annoying, to be honest with you. I understand why people are upset and respect that, but it was just a very annoying. People are just screaming stuff online all the time, and stuff that I thought that I didn't find to be true. So I just got caught up in that, and a lot of political works came out from that time. But I later learned that my politics are pretty naive, and because I don't, even 3 or 4 years later, I don't have a full scope of what's going on. So, kind of I made a conscious effort to actually, when I explored that in that, I keep promoting this YouTube podcast, but it doesn't exist anymore. but a major lesson was learned. That was my opportunity to just go all out and explore that stuff. And I realized, I think the way to go forward is I do have a purpose, in a general purpose in art. It's kind of vague, but, and this ties into politics. But my whole life, I was an atheist or nihilist. And a few years ago, I discovered a different outlook where I believe there's something as opposed to nothing. And so my mission is just to be a better person, working on that. And I would rather explore spirituality in art moving forward. But that all ties together, because when you have a spiritual awakening, you unravel the matrix anyway, and it'll get political. We're talking about being lied to. So I don't want to. Yeah, I have no interest in politics anymore. I stopped following it.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Please,
Sorry.
please. Oh no! I was gonna take off from what you were saying about this kind of spiritual awakening. Is that how this tarot card project that you're working on came about?
I don't exactly remember how that idea came about, but definitely it's an idea of like, how can I help people? Now, can I help people? I don't know. It depends if what people think of the app. If they enjoy it and use it, then that's a good thing. But I know what the tarot's done for me, how it's helped me make decisions, consider perspectives I've never really gave a chance. And so, yes, I would say that there's a correlation with the tarot project and the spiritual path. It's just another thing of, this is probably the first project where maybe I can help. Can I help? I don't know, but I'll try. But I think, like with any kind of art too, as long as there's an interaction with the audience and then that's helping. Like you can make, I know for me, like art has been used as therapy. Just even especially like comedy, like comedians, they'll help me during like a a dark time or something.
So okay, so I want to get back to the sorry, I want to get back to the Tarot project, but before I do that, because I'm a huge comedy fan, just huge comedy fan, can you tell me some of the just some of the comics that really like impact you, like deeply, or just people who you feel inspired by, or people that you've learned from, who are comedians?
Well, it's only really one or maybe there. I mentioned Kaufman, but I like that type of comedy. Even if I don't know if you'd call it anti-comedy. I don't think it is, but specifically Tim Heidecker from Tim and Eric. I love what he's doing with I don't know. Have you seen On Cinema? I
love his work. No, I love his work. I think he's genius. I've seen On Cinema. He has this other film that he's working on now too, where he like plays someone running for office. I haven't seen that one yet, but I'm excited about that. I love what he's doing. Yeah,
and On Cinema has directly influenced my art. When in 2015 I did a Second Life project where I lived in Second Life for a year, and it kind of so it was just an hour a day in Second Life reporting back, but then it kind of turned into like this narrative, and then I started making videos, and then became a recording artist in there, and so it's kind of influenced on you build this labyrinth like On Cinema, and it just expands, and then it gets meta. So that's definitely influenced from On Cinema.
Nice. No, I just was wondering because I think I don't know. I mean, I think especially when we talk about like censorship, or we talk about like so much of what's going on in our world, I feel like this is one of those times where like comedians actually stand out as like the philosophers because of their like laser vision that they have when they look at like societies and cultures, and like they have this ability to like kind of like I think like remove themselves and like observe all this shit and then like throw it back at us like, oh, okay, yeah, we're all clowns. You're right.
And you know what? I do believe that humor is the greatest solution to these times. And I've noticed that there's been a change online where, we were talking about that, anger from the election and screaming. But now those same people are, well, I don't know if the exact same people, but generally laugh about it. Because for me, that's the only way I can push forward is just kind of, because it is kind of insane, and some of these things that we see every day that it's just mind blowing.
No, definitely.
I mean, Dennis Rodman and North Korea. I mean, it just there's a lot. So I don't know. For me, I just try to laugh about this stuff. I mean, obviously it's not funny, but I spent a lot of time absorbing that material, and it just doesn't. After a while, it kind of affects your health.
Tell us what the Tarot, like project, the app. Can you just kind of describe what the app is for us, and then also like tell us what all the things that you did in it. So like I know that you created like all of the renders and all of the art. It to me, like from what I've seen, it's like all this like 3D art that represents all of these like different like tarot themes and all that stuff. I just would love for you to kind of like actually talk about the kind of like technical process of it, and feel free to get like as technical as you want, because a lot of our fans are internet art people who have created like independent apps as well. So I kind of am just like really interested in like your process and how you even created this app.
Okay. Well, I have a team or a coding team I'm working with, and basically I kind of just methodically went over the logistics of how to make it work. The idea of it is to be as the simplest app to use it. So this thing's not going to be this crazy, wacky artist app or anything like that. I found like from using for searching for tarot apps in the App Store, everyone I didn't like any of them, and that's no disrespect to people making them. It just I just wanted something simple. I just want the information. So that was the design, was to make it as minimal and easy and as possible. Don't push any extra buttons. But what I think is unique to this app is in tarot there's the moment of concentration where you're thinking about your question, and you have to, if you have cards, you may touch the cards like if they're physically there. But what we've done on this app is we have a mood thumb, and it's still in the coding stage, so we'll see how it turns out. But the idea is to concentrate on your question and move your thumb along the screen, and it'll radiate a green glow or psychedelic colors, or still to be determined. But so that's like the little magical moment of the app. But then it's pretty straightforward. You get your readings, and you're good to go. But yeah, the idea is as quick as possible. So really, from the technical side, I don't have any coding skills, and I communicated my ideas to the coders in a mood board, and we worked out every little detail of how it should run.
That's dope. Did you feel when I kind of like with a process like this, right? Because like I'm aware of like the history and the power of all of this. Was it important for you to kind of like find someone who like got it or understood it, or were you just like, if you don't get it and you don't understand it, but you think this is still like a worthwhile idea, then that's even better. Like, did you care at all about that, or was this something where you were like, no, I want to kind of align with someone who gets it?
It's better that way, I find. I would have gone either way, as long as like the end result is how I wanted it. Mm-hmm. There was a moment after I finished the cards where I needed a developer, a coder. It didn't quite work out, and with the previous coder, and there's just a moment on Facebook. I'm like, okay, this project is in the universe's hands. I'm going to ask for help, and either somebody will respond or I'm fucked, because like I don't know how to code. Yeah. And luckily, I did find a friend who we do share some of the same ideas. Like we've had esoteric conversations before online and stuff. So I thought it was a perfect match. Like his team gets it. Yeah. So that's always I prefer to work with people that I have some sort of connection with.
Awesome.
So.
Yeah. No. I totally get it. I'm the same way. I think like genuine connections and like sharing a certain vision about like what could be done with this is like super important. How long did it take you to do all of the renders for this project?
Took about a little bit over a year to do the 78 cards, but also it was a thing where I would do other work too, and I just kind of slowly pick away at the illustrations.
Okay, that totally makes sense. So one of the things I want to kind of like pivot to a little bit is like we touched upon politics, and now we've touched upon spirituality, but one of the things that that you happen to talk about, I'm saying that you have the podcast, so I don't want to confuse people. But one of the things that your art consistently references is kind of like different leaders in tech, people like Zuckerberg. You have a really popular piece that that like has Amazon's Alexa in this like kind of like 3D sculpture that you created with like all these other kind of like surveillance kind of tools, and just a lot of your art, you kind of like throw these nods to tech and the tech industry. What's that about, and like what's your interest with that world?
It's That's a good question. I don't know. Maybe I'm reacting. I'm not exactly sure how to answer that, but maybe I'm just so terrified of these technologies that I just need to kind of get it out in art. I mean, because everybody knows that Alexa spies on you. That's not a big revelation, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really know why I consciously choose those themes.
But
yeah, okay.
Yeah. No. I was just please, because you said accept. So I totally would love to hear what you're going to say.
Oh, I'm good. Actually, that thought was over.
Okay. So like one of the things that that kind of like strikes me about it is that it's interesting that you say that you're afraid of it, or that you have some like kind of like fear around it, for two things for me. Like one, the art you make is so not technical in the sense that, I mean, it's technically strong, of course, but it uses so much technology, right? Like you need a computer to do this. You need a pretty good computer to render this stuff. So you obviously, and I mean, I just from how long I've been like following your career and what you do, like I know that you understand technology well, but you also kind of have this sort of like kind of just like, wait, like whoa, like I'm not totally like comfortable with the way this is going. So like do you kind of feel like it's the sort of thing where the more you know, like the more maybe you're aware of like the negative that can come from this stuff?
I'm not exactly sure I understand the question. I apologize.
No, it's all good. No. I mean, I guess my main point is just that, like, it feels like in a lot of ways, like you're using like pretty complex 3D programs to like make this art, right? Mm-hmm. But in a lot of ways, and then it's also like referencing like people who are in tech and like these kind, or like things that are happening in tech in these sort of like really kind of like interesting ways, for sure. And for you, like, it's like, for instance, like, is it something that you keep up with? Like, do you find yourself like reading a lot of technology news and like stuff like that?
Actually, really rarely ever. Maybe more in the past, but yeah, lately I haven't been that interested in that. I kind of just see the Mark Zuckerberg thing as just a portrait of, where the artist paints what they see in their times. And I just look at like, I like looking at old paintings, 20th century, 19th, all the way back to the beginning. And you can just see a lot about the times they lived in. And there's just a lot of source material now, especially, now as we're getting more technological. So it just I don't know. It just, I'm like, oh, this is a hell planet, Zuckerberg. It's really like it's just as simple as that. And the Amazon Echo, I do not understand why anybody would want an Amazon Echo. I mean, maybe if you get two of them and have them talk to each other, that's interesting. But I don't understand why people are investing into smart homes. Your refrigerator's might lock you out if it's like measuring your step count, it's hell. like it's consumer hell. So I don't know. That's kind of where that comes from. It's hard to really give an exact answer on that. I don't want to make something up,
No. Thank you. I mean, I think it's actually super interesting that you have this sort of, I mean, I guess I'll say like in a way, like you have this sort of like this perspective on technology that's not, completely like super optimistic, but like a lot of your art is made using a lot of technology, and you kind of like use these like platforms as a way to kind of like get them out. So like kind of like how do you as an artist kind of like navigate that space, right? So like obviously you don't necessarily love everything that Mark Zuckerberg represents, but a lot of your art is available on like Instagram and Facebook. Does that ever something that you like think about at all?
Yeah, I used to like Facebook. I didn't have a problem when I joined. It was in right when around the vaporwave era, and it was great. There was a lot of communities that were flourishing, and art was being exchanged. But yeah, I don't have a problem really using an evil forum, but now it sucks. It's very difficult to be an artist and share your work online. It's the algorithms on Facebook are anti-human. It's just absolutely horrible. And I see how it works because like I post memes that I know are funny, that if there's 1,000 people, at least 3 people will find it humorous. But they have those algorithms so tweaked that it's just consistent 0, 1, 2. Well, maybe just for me, maybe it's different for everybody else. I don't know how the algorithms work for other people, but I've talked to, generally the algorithms are not as free as they used to be. That's a big problem. And it just was sharing art. Even Tumblr is trash too. They removed the worst. They removed a couple of my works because of nudity. I mean, come on. I mean, well, you know about that new policy, right? Where they're clamping down on nudity, but
I thought it was like pornography, but like art. I mean, there's like we talked about. I mean, they're going to take down every Renaissance painting that's ever been posted on Tumblr. Like, I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a mess. So yeah, these tools have great potential. Unfortunately, they seem to be on a decline. So I don't mean to be pessimistic, but it does really bother me because the best part of making art is the creation process, and that's why I do it, just the act of making. But then I just wanted to at least have a chance online, and it does. It's just there's opportunities, but it's just harder. That's all. Maybe that's what else I'm trying to say. I think we can all relate to that. Like anybody's posted stuff online.
Yeah, I mean, well, please. One of the things I want you to kind of touch upon a little bit, because I think it's just a very interesting term that you use, and I would just love to hear you just explain it a little bit more in your words if you can. And it's the term that you said when you said that the algorithms are anti-human. Can you tell me like what that means to you? I just think that's really interesting.
Breaking up the community, and that it doesn't have to be an art community, or it doesn't even have to be radical. Yeah. Any kind of network of people together should have a free flow of a free exchange of information back and forth. And it exists, but it's a mess. It's a complete. I mean, even look at Twitter. I used to love the days when it was real time. My friends, in real time, the tweet. Now I can't even. I don't even use it. I don't really like Twitter, but on the feed, it's filled with people that they're not even my friends. It's like political stuff that has nothing to do with my interests. Where are the tweets? It's yeah. The algorithm. That's what I mean by anti-human. I don't have a sense that like when I express myself online, it's gonna communicate.
So I was on Twitter the other day, and someone I followed was like, "What's going on?" Like he was like, I was using Twitter with my daughter, and I just had all this porn on my feed. Like I didn't even realize I was following any of these porn stars, and it was just like so hilarious to think about because you're so right. Like this is actually in a lot of ways what Twitter has become. It's just become this place where like you actually can you get on Twitter now, and you're like, yo, like, when did I start following this page? And then you're like, dude, not only am I not following this page, I don't know anybody following this page. I don't know anybody who liked this tweet. Like, this shit has literally almost nothing to do with me. And here we go. This is like half of my feed now. So I definitely see what you mean. And half of those people that make it through they're bots, right? They're like just bot accounts that tweet just this random shit that's just gonna like catch on. So I definitely see what you're saying there.
Yeah, no, it's awful.
yeah. All right. No. So, but staying on tech, one thing, if you're willing to talk about it, one of the things that I saw on your Instagram, I think I also saw it a little bit on your Twitter, was that you had like a situation with situations on like scooters and stuff like that, and you had been kind of like talking about a lot of this stuff, and I don't know, I just thought that content was super interesting. Can you kind of tell me, maybe just give us a little bit of info about your projects that are relating to these scooters, which I live in San Francisco. These shits are like fucking taking over the city, and I go to China a lot. I just go a lot. My wife's Chinese. They have a crazy ass everything. Everything there is like here times like 1,000, and they're like, I feel like they're like 20 years in the future, and there's so many fucking scooters there all over the place. Like they just throw them on the ground. It's insanity. So like I have a lot of opinions on this world, but I would love to hear kind of like what is this project about? What are you doing with it?
Well, you're right. This is a scooter, an e-scooter conspiracy. They're all over the world now. This just came from nowhere. But I don't. The idea of the e-scooter project. Well, number one, it's just reacting to my environment. These e-scooters just showed up, and like people look stupid on them, and
yes,
like it's just an ugly addition to our city here in Portland. There happened to be a revolt here in Portland, and people were throwing the e-scooters in the river, like by the dozens.
What? That's lit.
Yeah,
that's wild.
Yeah, yeah. I can get you that an article for that later. But it just started off as well, maybe I'll say it like this. There's just a part of my art where I just need to express like dumb ideas. And maybe that's sometimes a reaction to the content I see online. When art kind of gets a little bit like the same thing, sometimes I get upset and I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to make you watch this terrible video. So it's just kind of a dumb, like a fun, like explore the dumbest art ideas that I can. So it came together with working with a musician here in Portland named Joel Shanahan, and he's a techno artist and like dance like in that realm. And but what I really like about him is he's just really open-minded to all different types of art and ideas, and especially with music. So the key to the project working was making a new metal soundtrack to that. So I went to his house and we were sharing ideas, and then like right away he's like, I know what to do, and he just starts pulling out an electric guitar and starts making this crazy new metal music. And so yeah, it was just an opportunity to just work with the musician. It was fun. We used contact mic on blenders and just wild experiments. But there's just a few layers to this project, really. In a way, it's called I don't remember the name, GoPro I always get it confused. E-scooter GoPro Extreme, and it's just meant to parody those Red Bull videos you see on YouTube, where just people have the GoPro and they're doing crazy stunts, and the e-scooter is just not extreme. It's just stupid looking, and I look like an idiot on the e-scooter. So that was just the idea, but it happened. There was an incident where I actually did break my arm riding an e-scooter.
Damn.
Now, if I were a really good artist, I wouldn't reveal my secrets, but maybe it's just more interesting to just explain everything. That in the end of the e-scooter video, online on Twitter, I was claiming that I was going to sue the e-scooter company, and I have the footage of the accident. And in the last scene of the e-scooter video, there's an accident that I claim to be real, but it actually was fake. However, here's where it gets a little weird, because this project actually predicted the future, and this has happened a couple times. And I've heard of this phenomenon. Philip K. Dick has had this in his art, where you make something really quick and then something will show up later. But the idea for the original e-scooter project was for it to end in a crash. So I did have a simulated fake crash recorded, and so for like a month I've been using this e-scooter recording, and on the last day of shooting, the first time I didn't record, I actually did get in an e-scooter accident. The brakes completely failed. So for anybody listening, be careful on those e-scooters. You will not win a lawsuit against them, because you basically sign your life away when you use the app. I had to get that in there. That's my revenge, since I couldn't. I did try to sue them. I won't name the company.
Yeah.
But the lawyer laughed in my face, like, you can't, prove that the e-scooter is defective. So in a way, it is an extreme vehicle and dangerous. I wanted to touch go back a little bit when I mentioned Philip K. Dick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, we're getting a little off topic, but
no, it's all good.
The other example of my art predicting my life was in that Second Life project, because I played myself in Second Life for a year, and very strange, like a few years later, maybe several times, there were specific things that happened in my life that it's all in that art. Like, it's very freaky.
Oh, give me one. Give me like one example, because this sounds wild.
There's a couple. One, this happened last Halloween, but in the art or in the project, my character is trying to win an Indiegogo funds to build an art venue in the church, and fails and has a breakdown. And during that period, he wore a beard, started to drink excessively, and was just in a really down period. And in the project, stayed in a parody of the Bates Hotel. So for like a month, I would just literally log on to Second Life and just sit in this motel room for an hour and then log off and actually be secluded. But anyway, that doesn't matter. Point is, I had my own breakdown through a very difficult time, and it was one of the only times I've grown a beard. And right on Halloween, right down the street, somebody like elaborately decorated their house with the Bates Motel. But there are just multiple things that happen. It would be complex to really piece it together, but it's predicting my life. It's weird.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I can honestly tell you, like, I've had that phenomenon happen to me where like I've like written something down, and now like I'll like come up with an idea, and if I feel like, yo, I don't want this shit to happen at all, like I'll scrap that shit. Like I'll be like, nah, bro, I gotta delete this, because I totally agree with you. There are certain things that you like you can like write or you can like put in your art, and then like that shit happens. It's never in this like straightforward way that you think, but it happens.
Yeah, no, it's weird.
Yeah. So one, thank you. Like, we try to, when we record these, we basically try to do like an hour. And so we're getting pretty close to the end here. And I've just loved everything we've talked about. So I just kind of wanted to give you the heads up here, like as we get to the last like few questions. And one of the things that I'm just interested in, I mean, and we've gone, all over the map and different stuff, but at the core of it, you talked about the vaporwave movement. And I think that's kind of when I first knew about your art and all this stuff. And I'm just interested, like, how did you even get started working in like this digital art / like 3D art / like internet art media, whichever one you feel comfortable with? How did you even get started doing this kind of stuff?
Well, I was messing around with like the Blender program like maybe 10 years ago.
Okay.
My art skills weren't really there. I didn't know how to actually put everything together and make art, but it just happened that like around that time of net art and vaporwave, it was really exciting to me because it was art that had a sense of humor, and it was like, it was just a perfect opportunity for me, like I and my personality, and then just seeing like the artworks of those times. I was like there's I remember seeing a Vince McKelvey GIF for the first time, and it was just, what is this? And then like Kim Lafton, forgive me if I didn't pronounce it correctly, but I mean, that took me like, I'm still trying to like work to get the renders as good as him. Like that's he's always like an inspiration. Like when I saw him, like, whoa. But yeah, it was just that time period. It was just magical, and it was just the right time to really just dive into it. So
yeah, I would agree. I think in a lot of ways that like that time was magical. I think one of the things that is missing now is, I think for us, I think we have this sense of freedom and like being able to kind of make anything that I don't think a lot of like newer kind of like 3D or internet artists, whatever we're going to call them, like I sense that they don't have that a lot. Like I think like there's a certain point where a lot of the art from certain newer artists, it starts to feel like very similar. And I mean, that's not to bash them at all. Like, I think that they have their own things going on that are like really like interesting. In a lot of ways, I think that some of them get the fundamentals of like rendering and making things realistic, probably like, way better than I still even understand years later. But I think that there's this certain sense of, I don't know, just like freedom and like wonder and like and also I think honest sharing that happened with the vaporwave movement. Like, one of the things with vaporwave, especially when it came to the visual artists, is that it felt extremely democratic. Like, it felt like you could reach out to people and people would tell you like what programs they were using. People would help you out. People would share so many resources with each other. And I think you're right. I think that was like a really, really special time. And honestly, Facebook was amazing for that. Like the groups that people would create, like the pages where people were sharing art. It felt like there was just like so much excitement like during this time of like really heavy discovery.
Yeah, I would agree. And, as far as artists being original, I have no problem with artists staying within the genre of net art or vaporwave. For me personally, it's just a question of what I am interested in art. So I am in no way like bashing any of these artists, because I just, I see incredible things every day online that I'm like, oh, wow, how do they do that? But like example, vaporwave, where it kind of got where people were just copying the aesthetics. Yeah. I have a problem with that. And then it just kind of oversaturated. But to this day, I'll listen to the vaporwave artists that were able to put their own voice into it or take it somewhere. I'm interested in that, and I there's still that great potential in net art today, and I think, and I'm not just saying this because you're here, but I think Felt Zine does an amazing job of curating, like the people like exploring the medium, trying things. So.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, that means a lot to us. One of the things that I also want to ask you, just as we wrap up here, is what's next? What is this? What does 2020 kind of, not even 2020 the year, but like, what is this next decade? What excites you? That you're gonna for that, either something that you're working on, something you hope to work on. We didn't get to talk about deep fakes. I love your deep fakes project, but stuff like that. Like, is there anything that you look forward to kind of like, like playing with? Do you plan to play with any sort of like other types of like artificial intelligence or machine learning? In a way, like what's next?
Well, I do want to learn more about machine learning. I just got a computer that can handle it, and that's where that deep fake came from, because I wasn't able to do that before. So it's gonna be a learning year of. So I don't know if you will necessarily see work right away, but that's my future interest is in AI. Honestly, I could quit at any moment, but also I can go on forever too. Like I always want to just do something creative. So an example of like quitting is like, I'm going to focus on this tarot app and try to make it successful. And maybe I might even be a businessman, and maybe I can succeed. And maybe that's a path. Because I thought if I can break even with the money I spent, maybe I'll make another app. But ideas, like, they'll always come, and we'll see. But I don't want to quit. But we talked about it earlier. Just the only times I want to quit is Facebook, or just like, yeah, when you spend a lot of time on something. It's okay if people don't like it, but I just want people to at least have a moment with it to decide. I just want that opportunity. So that's the thing. Like, where I always question every time I, make something, I get frustrated. But yes, yeah. So the future is AI. That's my focus. We'll see what happens.
So one of the things that I think is really interesting when you say that, because when you talk about AI and you talk about making new businesses for you, and even with this app and everything, it seems like for you, it's more about creating and sharing than it is any one thing in particular. So it seems like it's not about like, rendering 3D art per se, or making documentaries, about the scooter conspiracy. It seems like for you, it's actually more about kind of like trying new things all the time as well.
Yeah, I always have to try things. I get very bored doing the images, those net art images, if it's for longer than a few months. So I take some breaks, or but yeah, I like to try new mediums. More recently was like the GoPro medium. I did another film like in New Mexico, where I used that medium and the 360 medium. But yeah, just trying new mediums. Just keep trying to do something new. I've noticed actually now, because I've been doing this for 7-8 years. Like, like I'm starting to repeat myself. I'm getting to that stage. So, which is fine, because the way I see it was like the latest batch of net art was kind of like, oh wow, these are the same ideas like 3 years ago, but technically they look better. So, but yeah, so that's actually a big question for me. Like I would love, like with the digital art, to take a radical shift. But normally the way I work is I just let ideas just happen. But this is kind of a forced idea. I'm like, okay, you got to consciously make a turn here. So that's just something I've been thinking about a lot. I would like to try just a different style.
Yeah.
Look,
One thing
I don't know. That's kind of scary though.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, one of the things, and I keep wanting to wrap up, but you just keep saying these things that like keep me on the hook. One of the things
we could talk as long as you like. So
okay,
I'm enjoying it.
Okay, perfect. One of the things I want to ask you is, do you ever take time away from like creating altogether? Like, have you ever taken a moment to just be like, I don't want to make anything right now. Like I'm just gonna like live life, or I'm just gonna read a bunch of this stuff, or whatever, right? And in the same sense, like how much time do you also spend like away from like the internet? Because like I think even with the tarot cards, like I mean, you said you use apps with them, but I mean, I would think like maybe at one point you even like had a deck of cards. Like, do you ever kind of just like take a break from like all the digital shit and just like go experience life and just do other shit? Or are you someone who is like, you get like really inspired from like being like connected and all that kind of shit?
Yeah, it's I literally can't stop. I even I quit art for a year, and I wasn't supposed to come back, but I realized actually my mother recently passed, and
I'm sorry to hear that, by the way.
Oh, it's okay. I mean, whatever. I don't want to go into that, but I mentioned that like it's important because like that's how I reconnected with art. I'm like I had quit for a year up to that point, and I needed to just fill up all of my time. So I literally, don't think about that or let it, I have to heal. And so the last like 6 months, or I don't know how long it's been, it's this obsession with just trying to do as much as possible to just stay active and busy. So I would say it's like a healing mechanism for me, just to create. That's my favorite part. And even like this last summer was amazing when I broke my arm. It was just, it was like I didn't have to work for like a month, and I was working on like 4 projects at the same time. And like there's a period where I was like on pain medication and like making a soundtrack, like laying it on my back in pain with 2 fingers, making music. And and it was just an incredible period of just staying busy and being creative. So I love that feeling. It's a very unique feeling that I'm grateful to feel. But yeah, so I don't, it's kind of it's a defense mechanism, just, in one way, but, yeah, I can't quit. I tried last year. I just can't quit. Even when I did quit, that's when the Tarot project started. And then that's when I made it. I just can't stop. Maybe that's for better or for worse, but I figure just got to keep exploring this path, see what happens. It's been very strange.
Well, it's interesting too, because now when you say that, and a lot of stuff we touched upon earlier, it makes me think like, in one way it's healing, but in another way, it's also a way for you to even like to learn, right? Like you even said, like, you're like, yo, I'm not like the most like super political person. Like you, it seems like you're learning about things and then also like churning them out into some art, like almost as a way of like understanding concepts or something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, I'm obsessed with knowledge too, or trying to learn, and I don't even know what to do with the information. I just want to share it somehow. And that's how these things kind of come out sometimes. Again, like the creative process is it's kind of hard to really pinpoint this stuff down. You know what I mean? It's just kind of quicker than that. It's kind of almost like automatic. I don't want to make up anything.
No, thank you. No, I appreciate that. And do you feel like with your art in that sense, like how tied are you to all of these pieces, right? Because it feels like in a lot of ways, like the way that you share them, right? Like, I mean, even just as an artist, like you put this stuff out for free. Like, is that a part of it for you? Like, is a part of it, like, like making it accessible, having easy barriers to entry, like, I mean, there's a lot of people that could have recorded a documentary like the ones that you put together and then have just been like, I'm going to just shop this around till I get on Netflix, or I'm going to, I don't know, do whatever. Like, I'm going to sell it for like $10 a download or something like that. Like, a lot of your art is like very, very accessible. Is that a part of it for you too? Like, because especially if you're someone who cares about knowledge, like for you, is this also about kind of like sharing this knowledge that's important to you as well?
It's important. Yeah, it is. And I wanted to get out and share. I'm probably this is about to change because I'm going to learn business. It's on my list of 2020. I'm going to learn. I'm probably a bad business person and naive and didn't know how to organize things. I did try to sell a gift for $6,000 on eBay once.
How did that go? How did it go?
Well, there was I'm not sure if you're familiar with that project, the Balloon Dog Deflated. But it was very strange because I posted that online on eBay with a manifesto about how gifts should cost, net artists should make money for their work, or artists or gifts should you can buy it like a digital MP3 and there's nothing there. Why can't you buy GIF art? And it's kind of a parody of Jeff Koons' outrageous like Balloon Dog. But it was a GIF, and I tried to sell on eBay, and it kind of went viral online. Like and that was how I was trying to sell it, was through the media, through like clickbait, and it got a lot of attention, but I didn't make $5,800. It didn't break the record. I think the record is actually like 2,000 by Nicholas Sassoon, if memory is correct.
Yeah.
But I did get $202.50, which was pretty good.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome. but why did eBay? Because it got taken down at one point. Well, why did it even get taken down? Like, were you given a reason for that? They just thought it was out. Like, just was like, no, you can't sell it, Jeff. Like, what? Why did they take it down?
Oh, that's an eBay policy where they'll remove the post from the past. For me, it was an important artifact because it happened to be an art project, and I just like to preserve that stuff. But I actually, when I posted that on Instagram recently about that, it got taken down, and the person who bought it actually made a screenshot of the eBay screen. So he should be giving that to me fairly soon. So it's saved. Otherwise, it didn't happen. That's a big problem. That's something I'm always worried about is the long-term archival of material. I've seen stuff disappear all the time through the years, and this is another example of that. Like, will this podcast, like, how long will it be online? Will it be here 10 years? Because I know stuff I did from 2007 is just disappeared. I don't know. I didn't even delete it. Just so.
Yeah, I'm crazy about that stuff. Like I totally agree with you. I'm the type of person, like, I use a download manager to straight up download any video I like. I like go back and just like, even when music comes out that I like, I'll find another copy and download it because like you said, there's been and I mean, you know, everything is better once you lost it, right? But I feel like the best music I've ever heard, the coolest shit I've ever seen online, it's all gone. Like it's not that I can't find it. Like, I'm not searching for it the right way. Like, I'll go back to the right address. I'll bookmark that shit, and then it's just gone. And like, to me, that's one of the biggest tragedies of the internet is that like the dopest, like rarest content, like really just doesn't last, you know, and for whatever reason, because it was on a blog spot that got deleted, it's just fucking gone. And like, yeah, that kind of stuff actually bothers me a lot. Like I have a complete external hard drive that's just for like ripping content offline and saving it onto this hard drive.
Yeah, no, it's good. Like, Feltzine has a plan.
Yeah,
it's good. I mean, it's not like any, you know, it's not how it doesn't disappear all in one day, but yeah, that is very frustrating. I actually just bought a CD for the first time in like 5 years. It just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
No, I agree. Well, Michael, thank you. This has been like such a good, fun conversation. I appreciate you for being here. I'm gonna have to listen to this episode back and do some serious editing and see what we can get away with putting this on streaming platforms with. But oh my God, it's been incredibly fun. I think we should do this again sometime. I can't wait to see what you do with like artificial intelligence, and I would love to talk to you about that in the future because I just think it's an amazing I don't know, it has potential to be like an amazing art medium. So I'm like really looking forward to that. And yeah, so thank you for your time. If there's anything that we didn't get the chance to cover or anything you didn't say that you would like to say, yeah, please let me know and you know, feel free to drop it in. But you know, if not, I really appreciated this and yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me on this podcast. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate it as well. And like I said, I mean, I just feel like, you know, in a lot of ways, like you're one of the, I love the way you think about this stuff and especially the way that you express yourself with art and kind of like use creativity to like share this stuff and get this knowledge out. So yeah, in a lot of ways now I'm like, damn, like I hope he feels like he got to talk about like real smart shit, man. I was like, man, I hope he doesn't feel like this was basic.
Oh, I'm just thrilled. We made it to the end, and it was a nice conversation. I was just nervous. I don't know. Do I even know how to talk about my art or anything like that? But no, this has been great. Been a lot of fun. So we made it.
Awesome. Well, Michael, thank you. I look forward to seeing all of the dope shit you're doing online. And yeah, man, I appreciate it. And we're out, man. Peace.
All right. Bye, everybody. Bye.